Hi everyone, long time no see. Just getting started on my 2024 garden plans for the year. I will have a video at some point going over the seeds that I have, plans for planting, kind of how I came up with all that. But today we are making seed tape, and I am making seed tape for my carrots. I did this for the first time last year, and I was looking for a way because I knew I was pregnant, and I knew it was going to be very challenging to garden and try to get down and weed carrots and thin carrots out with a great big old belly in front of me, because I was going to be pregnant through beginning of August. I wanted to find an easier way so I didn't have to thin out the carrots. I've also run into the issue that when I just thickly sow carrots, thinning them can be a total pain because you think you're pulling out one carrot and you end up messing up all of them, and once the tap roots are messed with, they get all mad. So thinning them doesn't go the best, weeding them's atrocious. So I decided I'm gonna try this. I should be able to see them come up in a line, so I should know roughly at least like, hey, these things are very lined up, like they're probably my carrots. And I can control the weeds from there. And then hopefully, because they wouldn't be crowded, the carrots would form up a lot better. And let me tell you, I really hope this works again because I loved my results. I had the best sized carrots, I had awesome spacing, I had one spot in the carrots, if you go back and look at the garden tour videos, that was like blank and didn't come up, but it wasn't just that seed, because the other half of the strip came up. So all I can really come up with thought-wise is I think some of the compost we put there was too hot or had too much sawdust in it, so it was robbing the nitrogen, so like they never took off. Really didn't matter. I didn't actually end up, I harvested a bunch of carrots and I washed them all up and I froze them and I gave a whole bunch away, and I still had more carrots out there. Like there's still some out under the snow and everything that I'll have to, I think, pull out. I don't know if I'll end up pulling them out. I think there's been a couple years I've had carrots left. I usually pull them out in the spring and give them to the goats, but regardless, this worked awesome. The spacing on them was great. The size on them was great. It was probably my most successful germination, which I think that contributed a lot to just how I was caring for them. I dealt with less weed pressure too. Again, because they were in a line, like I kind of knew like, hey, these are my carrots. Like we can weed in between these rows. So it worked really, really well. So I'm gonna do it again. To go over the things that we need. Coffee, because coffee is important, but coffee is not actually involved in the process. I have 3 tablespoons of water here, and then I have 3 tablespoons of flour here. So you're gonna do equal parts flour and water. I have found it easiest, because I look back at my video, to dump the flour in. Try not to make a huge mess, but you know, flour does as flour does. So dump the flour into the water cup. Then I'll grab my straw. You could have something to mix it with, or just use the straw. Mix it up, and it should form this paste. And you're doing equal parts. You really want it to be like a thin cake batter, pancake batter, however you want to do this. The straw is not quite rigid enough to be a very good stirring utensil. But yeah, it's kind of going to be like this thin paste. So you can kind of keep stirring that in. And then the other thing you're going to need is toilet paper. And now I recommend, think single ply toilet paper. You can do that one of 2 ways. You can get, if you can find 2-ply that's not quilted, you totally could do that. However, most 2-ply that I see is quilted, and it's really hard to pull that apart without tearing it. So I actually found it a lot easier just to go find like really cheap single-ply toilet paper and cut my size strips. So I know that the area I'm working with, I can fit 16 strips, and they're all gonna be 4 feet long. So I measured my 16 4-foot strips already, pulled all them apart, and then when I'm all said and done, they end up being folded over. So they're only about like, I'm gonna say 2 inches wide, roughly, when you're all said and done. So I know how much space I'm gonna use. So. All the sewing you would think I would, be able to sew. I can quilt, can't sew. Don't know how. Really want to know, but don't know how. The carrots that I have 2 of these carrot packs are old. They were germ tested in 22, so I believe that means they're 2 years old. And then the other 2 I just ordered this year. Romance is the one. They're just an orange carrot. They are not a storage type, if I remember. And then these ones say storage on them, and they're the Polo, focus, that one. So those ones are both orange, both like a medium length carrot. They came out great last year. I loved them. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to make these ones for sure and see what I have for carrot seeds. I may make some extra ones, and then as I harvest carrots, I may think about planting carrots again in the fall, because these are, I believe they're 60 days from germination. The only thing that like makes me unsure about doing carrots, because they do taste better with cold versus really hot. The only thing that makes me unsure is 75 days to maturity, or 70 days. So it isn't so much that, it's like you have to add almost 3 weeks for germination. So really, that's what? It's like 100 and some days. So they don't like oversize and split. Because that was one thing I ran into, as the later it got, some of them had oversized and split. But that cold temperature draws their sugars back into the root and makes them really sweet. So the trade-offs, right? Narvik, it's an F1 hybrid. That is one of the new ones I'm trying. That is also an orange carrot. It's a medium length orange carrot, just one I was going to try something a little different. And then these ones I'm excited about. These are called Glow Stick Moonrise mix. So I'll put up a picture of them, but they're all different colors. So they're pale yellow to purple, bright orange, like a medium, like a highlighter yellow. I just want them because they look cool. I'm in it for cool things. When it comes to gardening, I can grow carrots and that's awesome. I don't use them a lot for fresh eating. I mean, some in the fall, but I don't have a great way to store stuff, which if you're gonna have a big size garden, I recommend understanding how to store them. But I can process them and freeze them and use them for steamable carrots or soups or things like that, which I love. So that's what I do them for. But yeah, I just try to do something different and odd, so it's not like, oh, I could just go buy these. I could, but these ones are gonna be cool colors, and they cost a lot less going from seed packet to my counter or my freezer or my plate. And maybe I'll convince my kids, because kid paraphernalia is taking over my house. Maybe I can convince my kids to try some. That's a stretch. The little one might. My little boy might. I have no promises on the girls. Toddlers are such picky eaters. I don't recall being a picky eater. Then again, I don't recall being a toddler. So that could be a large part of why I don't recall being a picky eater. However, my mom claims I wasn't. But also being a mom, I know the amount of amnesia that just runs through your life. I don't think you have the ability to remember a lot of it because you're tired. But yeah, so maybe I'll convince them to try it. I don't know. I'm not gonna hold my breath on that because I've just come to the conclusion kids do what kids do. Okay, let me get this finished mixing up, and then I'll show you how I dot it on my paper, add my seeds, and then roll it up. Simple as that. This is an easy thing to do in the winter months so that you have something to do. It's kind of gardening related, but it's not like you have to be out in the garden or you have to wait for it to happen. You could even do this, I mean, really, you could do this in the fall in preparation for the next year. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna get to that earlier in the winter, and I did not. So here I am, beginning of March, middle of March, getting it all put together so that hopefully, I think end of April is when I usually put, that's when I put them in last year, which is probably what I'll do again. So carrots, like, they can take cooler weather, which is nice. So I can plant them earlier. I'm in a zone 3B, 4-ish area. We didn't get that cold this winter. I think we only got down to like -10 or -15. Last year we were -32. Didn't have that this year, which is good because normally if we're gonna get that cold, it's nice to have a lot more snow. We've also had less snow. We're a little dry comparative to moisture, but without the snow, you don't have the insulation. So when we get that cold, it's a lot more damaging to any of our perennials we have that are borderline. However, on to carrots. Okay, so I went and got a spoon so that I could finish mixing in any of these flower clumps and kind of mush them against the wall of the cup. So I got it all mixed in there, nice and smooth. So I can tap that off. Here, you can put that in there. Put that in this container. Then, what I'm going to do, so you can just, more or less, I feel like I'm going to cut the bendy part of the straw. Hang on, pause, scissors. Alright, I don't like the bendy end of the straw. I feel like I'm unable to be coordinated with it. Oh, much better. Okay, so, you can take the straw. If it's down in there, you should be able to just like pinch off the top and then see how it just drops. Not much ever comes up in it. So usually what I do, if you suck up on it a little bit, try not to get it in your mouth, it just doesn't taste great. It's not bad for you, it just doesn't taste great. Although I don't think you're supposed to eat raw flour. So on one side, you're just going to let out these little glue dots. And they don't have to be far apart. You're talking like ½ inch or so. These have gotten really big. Whoa. Wow. So you have your little flour glue dots. Some of them are a little aggressively sized. Then you sprinkle your carrot seeds. These things are really tiny, but you can't even see it here. Let me put one on my finger. See? So they're kind of like, they're not super tiny to be planting outside, but they're rather small. So what I do is I put 2 on each glue dot, just because then, you know, if one doesn't come up, the other one will, in theory. And you're just going to go down and do that for the whole length of your toilet paper strip. Okay, so I have this entire strip done. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this corner here, I can get a hold of it, and this corner all the way down here, and I'm going to fold it over. very carefully. Don't want to pick it up. So we'll get the middle like that. Okay, so truth be told, I probably did these ones a little close to the edge. I could probably do them a little closer to center on the next one. I probably will. So then what I do is I just go through and I pat down the entire length. So I have contact all the way down. This one's already started to dry. Okay, so once I have it all patted down, I'm gonna leave it. Like, don't try to pick it up because you'll just end up ripping the toilet paper because it's all wet and whatnot. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna let that one sit there. You can go get your next strip ready. So like I can pull the next one out of this pile here, and I can do it right above it. That way I can use up my whole counter space. Like I said, I think I'm gonna go a little closer to the center on this next set. But I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna do 4 strips of each variety. I would still label it now because if you wait to label it when it's dry, you might get confused. I'm not saying you will. You might be able to get away with it. I will not. So I'm going to label it now. And I'm actually just drawing a whole bunch of dots with a Sharpie because if I were to try to write, it would, again, rip the toilet paper. Okay. So that's what I'm going to do, is just label my varieties. I'm going to go through and do all of these, and then once they're all done, and probably once they're dry, I'll show you how you can peel them up and roll them. But I think this method works great. Excuse me, look at my face. This method works great for getting carrot seeds evenly spaced or well spaced. Oh, rogue seed. Get them evenly spaced out so that way you're not doing as much thinning work in the garden. And I mean, seed tape is expensive, but making your own, really cheap and easy. Another thing that I would think this would be great with would be like lettuce, because lettuce seed is so small. I don't know that I would bother with things like beets or radishes because they grow really fast and the seed's pretty good size for them. But I'm gonna keep doing this. See you in a bit. Okay, so I did 4 strips of the one variety. I can pull them up off the counter now. You can see it looks a lot more dry. You can see those seeds are kind of in there. This one's still a little wet, so like it still sticks to the counter in some places. So like that one still needs to dry all the way. But like this one that is all ready, I find it really easiest to just fold them in half, fold them again, and then store them flat wherever I'm going to store them. Once they're totally dry, I'm going to let this one dry for the day, and I will work on my other varieties as I go. I don't have enough time to do the rest of them this morning. To do these 4, it took me probably 45 minutes. I mean, like making a video takes a little bit longer, but it just takes some time to go through and dot them all and then put all the seeds on. So I'm gonna break it up and do a little bit at a time, but I hope you give this a try. Like I said, I loved how it turned out last year for carrots. It just, without having to worry about spacing, that helped so much. I feel like it made for a better carrot. I feel like it just made everything about it easier. So I highly suggest that you give it a try, whether it's for carrots or for lettuce, any seed that really you want to give it a try with. Now, I would do this for things that I'm going to start like direct sown. I wouldn't do this for tomatoes or peppers because those I'm going to start ahead of time. But the stuff that I'm going to direct sow into the ground, this makes it a little bit easier just on spacing side. So when it comes to putting them in the ground, I can move a little bit of dirt to the side, lay this out, cover it with a light layer of soil, and water it in real good, and then make sure I keep the top a little bit moist so that everything can germinate. And it works out great. I hope you learned something. I hope you give this a try. If you do, let me know what you're trying it with. Let me know how it works for you, if you have any experience. This is also something you can do with, I'm gonna say like probably 6 and up year old kids, whether they want to go and put the dots on or if they want to add the seeds to the dots. Either way, might be a great way to involve them. My children are all still too young, but I can see someday in the future this being a winter activity, is getting our carrot seed tapes put together. I hope you have a good one, and I will see you next time.